So we're in my greenhouse, and I apologize. It's a little dark. It's not so bright when the sun is down, but I've turned it into my little art space, and it's full of, yeah, it's inside our house. It's kind of below ground, and anyway, it's full of plants. I'll give you like a quick view in a little bit when I get Tom the camera. I just wanted to start out talking just a little bit about what we're doing. I got into this because I wanted to grow birdhouses, or grow gourds to use for birdhouses for insect control. And I never thought it would grow into what it has. I've spent a lot of money, and it's turned into quite a hobby, and it's quite the adventure. But I want to talk a little bit about gourds, because that's really what I wood burn on. I actually wood burnt the first time tonight on wood, and I don't like it as much. But the reason I've chosen gourds is because if you guys go on the internet and look, there is so much out there. There are literal works of art. And just Google gourd art, and you can find amazing things, things that I never imagined anybody could do. But gourds are pretty cool. They've been around since ancient times, back to 12,000 BC. They started out, they keep arguing about which gourds came from where, but Africa and Asia is where they started. And they are the fruits of the flowering family of Cucurbitaceae. And I practiced that all night, so hopefully I got close. And pretty much there's a diverse species and subspecies of gourds. Your pumpkins for Thanksgiving are gourds. Your jack-o'-lanterns are gourds. I mean, there's just so many things that are gourds. And botanically speaking, the hard gourds and soft gourds aren't that different. It is their skins and their uses that make them different. But they've been used since millennia as tools, from the early prehistoric water bottle to food storage, to drums, flutes, guitars, and of course, insect controls. And the thing you need to know if you decide to grow gourds is they're sensitive souls, and they live big. They're very tender. They do not like it if it's cold. It hurts their feelings terribly, and they will die. And they are the ultimate bed hog. If you think you're going to plant one seed and it's not going to take over your garden, you're mistaken. It is. In fact, last year, I think when I did my presentation, I showed you gourds that were growing in our garden. We didn't plant those. Those were carryovers from 2 years before, which should not have happened, but they were very determined. But the main thing to know about gourds is they are incredibly beautiful. So I'm not going to get into a whole lot of the types. I'll send Melody this PowerPoint to upload. But the thing you need to know about gourds too is you have to be patient. They grow pretty quickly after they start flowering. And then with the first frost, they're going to die. And you need to leave them in the garden until they have that first frost. You really want that stem to be brown. And after you leave them for a while, or gather them and put them, you wait. And then you wait some more. And depending on what kind it is, you may even wait some more. They take a while to cure. And you have to be patient. Depending on the thickness, the type, how dense the inner surface is, it can take, for apple gourds, it took 1.5 years for them to dry. So you have to be patient. And they look awful. They get moldy. Some of them, you're going to lose them. It's just inevitable. Amish farmers just leave theirs out in the field and just decide, we're going to have a certain amount of loss. It's okay. I can't leave anything in the field. In fact, Tom helped me pick up what I told him was 50 gourds this Saturday, but it was more like 150 volunteer gourds. But to clean them, you just need a little bit of bleach and a scrubber, and not to be afraid. You're going to take off that mold and outer skin. So I'm going to turn this over to Tom and let him be my cameraman. But the thing with pyrography is you can burn on any surface with it. Wood burning is pretty much exclusive to wood. And believe it or not, it makes a difference in the tools. And I learned that the hard way. But I started out with a very low cost investment, and it worked okay, but it was a lot of work. And I'll show you all the difference in that. But I'll show you a little bit about how it works and some things that I've done as we go along, so you'll know the difference in the quality of tools. So give me just 1 second. I'm going to hand off to my cameraman. Tom, did I do that? There we go. Okay. You guys let us know if you can't see things. So when I started out with this, I bought this little thing. I don't know if I bought it at Lowe's.
Hey, I can't
You can't see, but it is a plaid decorative wood burning set. And the most important thing that it had was a temperature control. And it had this handy little box. You can even solder with it. It has these stamps and transfers, and it seemed like a great little tool. What I didn't realize is how much extra work I was doing. And I will still use this, but probably not as much because I've upgraded. So this is what it looks like. It has a control down here. I've learned for this particular piece of wood I have, which I'm not sure what it is. Do you know, Tom? Is it ash? Oh,
no, it's fine.
Pine. Okay. But what I've learned with this tool, there's different tips. You have to let it completely cool to change it out. It screws in kind of like a screwdriver tip. And this is just the average tip. It's kind of, they call it a multi-purpose. You really cannot outline very well with it. It's more of a shading tool. And I have this thing cranked all the way up. Smoking is probably not the best thing, so it's actually heated up a little more. But you can see, and you can make it as fancy or as easy as you want. And in the old days, I would have tried to outline with this, but it would have taken me forever, and I didn't want to bore you guys with that. So, and I'm kind of sloppy. I'm trying to look over the camera, but you can kind of see what you could do with that. And you could have colored it, or you could have outlined it and painted the inside. But again, it's just really hard with this tool. So I'm going to put it away, but I will show you the things that I've done with it previously. Things I should tell you about wood burning. I have a fire extinguisher here. Last night, I decided to try to cut the hole for my birdhouse with the wood burner. It worked really well. Problem was I set on fire the stuff inside it. Oh, wow. There is a reason that you should use the drill. I won't do that again unless I'm outside. I probably will do it again, but I'll do it outside. So some things that I've done with the tool that I just showed you. I did this. It's chrysanthemums. It was kind of a freehand thing. This is with the dye that I was using before, which is just it was a water-based dye, and I love the mottled colors that it gives. They do not hold. It doesn't matter how much I put on it, it just absolutely will not hold. But one neat little thing about this gourd, the stem was broken, and I bet you can't tell it. So I crazy glued it. It still looks great, and I'll just paint it again, and it'll look fine, and nobody will ever know, except you all. So let's see. I'm going to save that one for later. This is another one I did. You can see I've got the hole marked. I obviously didn't cut that one. And this I traced with stencils. And again, you can kind of tell it was a challenge. It's tough to shade. It's just tough to do the things that I wanted to do with it. Sorry, I'm rummaging around in my gourd basket. And this is another one I did. And this is an example of when you leave your tip on there too long with that wood burner, it gets too hot. But I got really frustrated. This took me, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours to do, which was a very long time. And I couldn't get the shading that I wanted, the stippling. And one thing that if you decide to use gourds or wood as your media, the wood is impacted by the grain. The gourd is impacted by imperfections, and almost every gourd has thin spots, little difference in the color, little places where the mold is taken over, and it changes the skin. You can see there's a little irregularity. So you have to pick where you put your pattern. Shuffling gourds again. So things that I use to do the patterns, I've invested in several things.
Sorry, folks.
Mostly because I'm cheap. So, and you guys can probably tell me right away the first thing that's wrong with these. These look great. And I've used that one. Actually, I made something that looked like lightning with it. But they look really pretty. But do you see the problem already? They're rigid. And gourds are not a flat surface. So it is very tough to transfer. That's not to say I won't use these, but it presents challenges. These are not a plug for them, but Hobby Lobby. I did find these at the same place, and they've been a little friendlier. They're stick-ons. I don't know how many times I'll be able to stick them. But anyway, I'll show you a little bit about that later. And I found this place called Wellburn Gourds, and there's several others. There's Gourd Masters, a million other places, and they've come up with this beautiful stuff called Stick and Burn. And I'll show you what you can do with it. But it literally sticks to the gourd. You can burn across it, and it scrapes off. Now, I still like freehanding some stuff, and I still do freehand some stuff. But if you really need to move along, or you want to just get a project done, these are great. And it can be as complicated as these fish and pandas, which I haven't figured out what I'm gonna do with a panda or a tiger. But it can be as complicated or as easy as you want it to be. Well, I'm not sure I'm going to tackle those things anytime soon. And the one thing to know about this, if you decide to get into it, invest in a $20 wood burner. Know that you can move up, but it's a good way to figure out if you like it or don't. So I think I told you we had a fire extinguisher. I've tried to make, you'll notice a lot of my stuff is metal. Metal will heat up, but I'm not going to set things on fire. And although it looks a little cluttered, I kind of have everything in its place. I have all these little baskets. This is metal that I keep my other wood burner in. I use a heat gun, and I'll explain that in a little bit too. But let me show you the difference in what you can do with this new wood burner. And I did a lot of research before I bought, but there is a million different things out there. This one, I don't know, it just seemed like the right thing to try. You also need these things. You always need your pencil and a white eraser. Do not use a pencil eraser or the pink ones. It will not take it off of a gourd or wood very well at all. So what I've upgraded to, and Tom has been very generous to me to let me do this. I guess this is Christmas, birthday, and anniversary. Sorry, bear with me a minute. Well, that ended up pretty good, didn't I? Okay. So I upgraded to this razor tip. I think it comes from Canada. And the nice thing about it is, one thing I've learned about gourds is they do not like wood burners that you have to change the tips on. They tend to come unscrewed, which is really bad with something that's that hot. They tend to, that's the biggest problem. And with some of them, even this kind of wood burner pin, if they're changeable tips, they will break. So, and really, these things are kind of expensive. They're anywhere from $18 to $30 a piece, but these are fixed, which is a lot safer. And there's dozens and dozens of different kinds. But basically, you need this one, this one, and this one. This one is like a razor. That's what got me in trouble last night when I was cutting through a gourd. But it's also your outliner. This one is for shading, and this one is a rider. And I'm upgrading in increments. Eventually, I'll get a second cord. This actually has 2 ports. You can't have 2 hot tips. But the difference in this one and what I was using is that one took 20 minutes to heat up. This one will almost be instantly hot. So I did this a little bit earlier. Can you see any difference in it? And maybe not, but I was able to use the tip to trace. I'm going to change this out, which I couldn't do with the other one. So it'll heat up pretty quick.
I can't zoom.
You can't? Okay, that's all right. Can you see it from a distance? But you can see already this is so hot that it's cutting. And the thing to know about wood burning is you have to commit, which turns out I have a problem with that, because you want to be as continuous as you can, because wherever you stop, you're going to be able to tell slightly. And I realize this is not something that is a perfect art for me, at least not yet, probably never will be, because your media is so different. And if you guys want to ask questions, please stop me and do. I tend to do better that way. So you can kind of see how quickly that worked. And then it's as simple as this to change it out. So I'm not doing an ad for them. I'm just saying it's a great tool. I'll look at the hours I struggled before, and I'll show you the difference here in a few minutes of what you can do. Melody, you keep me on time, okay? Because I have no clock.
Oh, you're good. I don't have a clock either. I had to take my phone and set it on my car outside. So
So I know you guys can't get a lot of detail, but can you see how much quicker I was able to do that? So my advice is, if you're interested in this, find somebody else who does it and dabble with their tools. And, you know, if anybody wants to come visit, you're welcome to. Just let me know so I can at least put my laundry up. But before you invest, do that. I would have done some things different had I known. And it's okay to start small. I mean, if you're out $20, that's not a huge thing. But you can see how much more quickly I did that, how much difference you can get in the shadings, and I can crank this thing up and go super dark. You want to stay just below the smoke point. And this is actually a tool that you can use. I don't know, you guys probably can't see the detail, but you see all these wood carved ducks? Well, guess how they get the feathers? They get them with tools just like that. So I'm going to show you the difference on a gourd now.
Hey, just a second, Annie. That you've got the tracer and then the one that you just filled in, and what's the other tip do?
I have it's a shader. Let me show you that one. I actually got a garden stake I was going to wood burn on, and Tom wouldn't let me. I
was afraid it was pressure treated.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've already gotten a little trouble doing this in the house. Normally, this is my back porch thing. I sit on the screened-in porch, and you will like this, Melody. There's always a glass of wine involved. There's one here tonight, and it's just my relaxing thing. Now, I've cranked this thing up pretty hot. I usually try to stay between 5 and 6, and you can see that it got really hot, but you can do some different shading with this. I could actually go really, really light. Or I can crank it up a little bit and go super dark, but it heats up that fast. And I've hit the smoke point a couple of times. I'm still figuring this out. I've had this, what, Tom, a couple weeks,
About a week.
And you can see I can almost take it to a black. The one thing, wood is more forgiving. If I were to crank it up too high on a gourd, you know what happens? I go through it. So again, I probably started with the hardest thing that I possibly could have to work on. I mean, you've got a curved surface, you've got imperfections, and wood is a little different. So you guys need to look up wood burning and see what some other folks can do. And when I say it's works of art, it truly is. But you can see a little bit of the difference in how that functions. And this is one of the tools that you can use to get leaf-like shapes. You can't bend it too much. But this is also, they use this some to build up feathers and get texture. I don't think I'll be making decoys in my life, but you can kind of see how there's versatility, and there's about 30 tips. I mean, there are people who do calligraphy with this stuff. It won't be me, but there are people who do. So,
wow.
So this is a gourd that hasn't been treated. It was washed, and you can see when you raise gourds, you get some mold. Some people love that, some hate it. When you stain over it, it actually is pretty cool. I can't tell you why it's got the white. It's just what it did. I guess I should cut that off. That's a flammable part, y'all. You don't want to leave that. But this one, I wood burned this little hummingbird with the old wood burner. And I tried to shade it in, and it was just so difficult. So tonight, on the upper part of the wings, I used the new machine, and it made a big difference. And what I'm going to show you with this, I've sort of showed you the stenciling, and I did a little freehand here, but I'm going to show you how this stick and burn works. And because this gourd is older and dry, it doesn't want to stick. And I'm going to cheat just a minute and heat this up so it'll stick a little better. The other tool that I found that I need for gourds is this heat gun. It is amazing. Sorry.
You're okay.
And all I'm doing with that is try to heat it enough so that it will stick. And I need to change out tips again. So the blessing in this is all I have to do is this, where with the other one, I would have to let it cool down or use a screwdriver and maybe get burnt. And this one is just amazing. This is the razor tip. And I will tell you the one thing about this, nobody but you knows exactly how this is supposed to look. So if you get out of the lines, nobody knows. It's not a big deal. And it's like most artsy things. I'm sorry. I'm going to stand up. Just don't be afraid. And you see I'm outside of the lines. This is a little awkward.
I'm sorry, y'all. The camera's reversed from my screen, so it's tough for me to.
Yeah, you guys tell us if we need to do something different. We tried to use the iPad, and it would not behave with Zoom.
I think it's showing up pretty good.
Okay, but this just gives you a little bit of an idea. And you can see it gets pretty hot quick. The hummingbird I traced from one of those stencils from the Hobby Lobby. But if you don't visit any other site, visit Wellburn. They have videos, and it will help you to determine if it's something you're interested in. And a lot of this stuff, it doesn't have to be exact. Again, you're the only one who knows what it originally looked like. So, I mean, who's going to judge you? And these stencils make it look like you're just amazing anyway.
That's impressive.
It's all about the tool. Sorry. No, that one's not so good. I'm at an awkward angle. We'll see how bad this looks when I take it off. So let me turn my tip off here. And so to take this off, I don't have fingernails between the garden and I just don't have fingernails. So I found that my staple remover is fabulous. This stuff is super sticky, and once it gets hot, it is mean to get off. And I'll be able to fix those little uneven places with a different tip. So you guys saw how much I struggled with that other one. Look how quickly we made a detailed flower.
Wow.
So it is about the tool. I mean, if you're really interested. I told Tom last night I couldn't believe that I was able to accomplish what I was in the time that I did. So eventually I will actually, so I use that little sticky to do these leaves. My leaves are always wonky when I draw them. You can see I've drawn something else on this board and erased it. They're pretty forgiving. That will not show up when I stain it. And then this stick and peel stuff, it's that simple. And if I don't like where it is, I just pick it up and I move it. I don't know who came up with this stuff, but I wish it was me because it's just amazing. And I'll show you how I'm going to fix this one. Tips. And I'm doing this by increments. I will work up to buy a second cord. You know, I'll upgrade as I can. That's not what I want either. I'm very diligent about switching to the one that's off and on. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but these things get really, really hot. So what I'm going to do with this shader is I'm going to go back and fix the places where I really couldn't do that perfect little circle for the inside of the flowers. So I'm going to go back with the shader and just correct it. And I've gotten into using gourd ink dyes and alcohol ink dyes. And when I fill that in, you won't even be able to tell any of that. But, you know, there are different ways to finish this. You can paint it. You could shade it in with these shaders. And what I will probably do is I'll bring my bind down and connect that. So let me show you what I did last night. I'm pretty proud of it. And then you guys can tell me what you want to see, because it's hard to know when you're doing this, what's interesting and what's not. So you all saw the earlier stuff that I did. That's what I was able to do last night.
Very cool.
And I used the fish stencil, but I free-handed the water and I just made up the colors for it.
That's pretty, I like that.
So, I'm sorry.
You stained the whole gourd.
Yeah, I did stain the whole gourd because it was the same color as this. And what I haven't found the greatest solution for finishing the outside. So when I come up with that, I'll let you guys know. But you can even see on this, there's imperfections. I mean, this little gourd had a hole in it. But I just feel like that gives some character. And you can just channel your inner artist. I mean, there's all kinds of videos that tells you how to paint stuff, but the reality is I did what I wanted to. And it's just, you know, just have fun with it.
What kind of paints do you use?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's been an investment too. So I'll show you. Let me move some stuff. Be sure that I'm turned off. This was on sale at Hobby Lobby. This is my fireproof and, well, not so paint proof tray. I use acrylic some. I don't like these acrylics very much. These are some that I've had forever, but I have used them, just typical regular old acrylic paint. And then I usually seal with polyurethane. I just haven't found anything with the staying power, but I think that has been my fault because I have used the water-based paints. Let me look under here. Tom, it's that far basket here.
Can you reach more?
Maybe. And Mary laughed at me last time to clean out the gourds, especially the apple gourds. I got cut on one end. It took it 2 weeks to heal. I used my roach clips. That's what Mary called them. But I use these hemostats. I found them on Amazon. I got some short ones. I got some long ones. They came in a pack and they are fabulous. And I haven't got cut since. Sometimes I will use these, but I will probably never use this on a gourd I put outside again. I love these. You can mix it. You get the most beautiful colors. They do not hold up. They just do not. They don't make it a season. I don't know if it was what I was using, which is water-based, but it stained my fingers pretty good for several days. Or if it was because maybe what I used to seal it. All I know is they didn't last, and I was just heartbroken because they're beautiful. I've got these metallic acrylics. I'm excited to try those on my apple gourds. I have not tinkered with them a whole lot, but you know, I plan to do some other things with these gourds. Like you can make really cute little hobbit houses out of them. You basically take the top of one of these gourds. You would cut it off here and then you put it on the bottom of it, or put this on the bottom of an apple gourd, like, and then you glue pine cones on it, and it makes this cute little hobbit house looking thing. Sometimes if I just want to dabble with oils, I'll use my oil paints. But the last time I used these was to paint the mailbox. All of this stuff, I consider an investment. As long as I shut the lids, it lasts forever, particularly the oil paints do. The new thing that I have found to try are these. And this I bought as a kit from that Gourd Master. It's what I used on the fish gourd. But I was able to buy pretty much every color that I wanted, with the exception of a couple. And I bought the others as a set. But these are transparent acrylics, and it kind of lets the gourd shine through. And I'm just going to show you. Last night, this is I think it's an old watercolor palette I have. I used 2 drops of this to do most of everything that I did. I would have never believed that it would have gone that far. They said it would, but they said you won't have to replace this for 2 to 3 years. It's true. And, you know, just like any paints, you know, I just mixed colors together till I got what I wanted. I did not use paint brushes for that. It's pretty liquid. It came with these little sponges that were free in the kit, and they didn't clean up real pretty, but that's what I used to paint everything. When you use these, you basically get your color on, and then you blend it. I bought this at, I think, Big Lots, this big old bag of Q-tips, and that's what you blend with. And I was amazed that you could do it. I watched a video, and I never, ever would have thought it would work, but it did. The other thing that I'm getting ready to dabble in, I'll probably use this for my next gourd. Another plug for Hobby Lobby. I found these alcohol inks, and I haven't tried them yet, but I'm excited to. So alcohol inks, I won't have to turn my hands color. They come with this felt. Felt and gourds like each other. And I bought these to try, and it turns out that you can spray these, you can dilute them. I've got some Distress, so I'm excited to try that. I'm going to do some without painting. It just takes a lot of time, but even this, you can put these inks in, these paint brushes, and paint. And it's pretty water soluble. And this investment in this stuff, I think I paid $30, and I've got 6, 7, 8, 9 colors. Plus I've got this blending solution. One thing I will, I'm sorry. Yeah, this one is alcohol blending solution. So it's just for the alcohol inks. You can lighten them, blend them, change them. A lot of people use this for the card art. This is an outside project. You can see the vapor is harmful and stuff. Let's see. And I'll probably use paint brushes for that. I don't know how much I'll use the felt. I will tell you to do the base of this one. I did use those little felt pads. I should have put it on the stick because I colored my hands all kinds of colors last night. This is how those razor tips come. They come with a protector and changers and stuff. Yeah, that's what these come in. And again, I'll work up to it, but I did a lot of research to find out the 3 basic things I had to have to be able to learn. It also, the inks that I showed you, these Gourd Master inks, that one's a really pretty one. It's a metallic gold. You can see the colors that you get. I mean, and again, you know, you can mix and change stuff and get new colors. You really, if you've got red and blue and yellow, you could make anything you want to, but you're not going to get the sparkles. But one thing, I don't know what Gourd Master does, but they have this thing. It's called Formula 49. I don't know what it is. It doesn't say on the label. It just says it's non-toxic. So I guess I could drink it if I wanted to. But you put that on a gourd, and when you're painting, or even when you're getting ready to burn, it is a totally different experience. I don't know how it conditions the gourd, what it does to it, but it changed everything. And I guess I'll be paying them more money for that. Let's see, I was trying to think. So if you're interested in this, research. You don't have to spend a lot of money. This is kind of midline. There's actually some more expensive than this. felt is a big thing again with gourds. You need it to buff them and to get the sheen. And I haven't buffed this one yet, but it should get shinier with buffing.
Annie, is that what you use when you're taking off the mold and all the things on the outside to get ready to?
Oh no, I hate to tell you, no, when you're cleaning outside, I've done a lot of research and there's a lot of different things you can do, but you need an old tub. You do not leave them soaking a long time. Their skin will get too soft. I told you they're sensitive. Don't leave them soaking a long time, but maybe 30 minutes. They float. You have to put something on top of them. I usually try to clean what, Tom, about 6 at a time,
Yes.
but I try to sink them. And then you need a box of gloves because you're going to want to protect your hands. And my mama's SOS pads have been wonderful.
Water and
And-
SOS?
Yep, it's pretty cheap. You don't want to scrub too hard. You just want to get the outer skin. If you get into the inner skin, you'll damage the gourd. It won't last as long. Again, they're sensitive fellas, but they don't like to be roughed up too awfully much. And there's no such thing as a bad gourd unless it's rotten. I mean, even the gourd master people sent me pieces. And it's great to practice. Yeah, theirs are thicker than mine. I don't know if you can see the difference. I don't know what they raise, but it's a whole lot different than mine. But they will still serve the same purpose. They have some kind of patent on this. So I don't know what they've done. On the inside, they look the same. But I mean, all that stuff there, I freehanded that, just practicing. I don't know why I drew a snake after the fish, but I did. We won't talk about that. I'm not sure. I think I messed up. I thought, well, that looks like a snake. But anyway, I mean, it's just, you don't have to invest a lot of money, but the things I would advise, eventually I'm going to put a glass top on this antique table of my dad's, but it's so beat up already. I mean, I can't mess it up too much. If you're going to stain, you want to work on metal because anything porous, it's going to become a part of. This should probably last a long time. And I didn't buff that enough to really get the shine. But it will shine up pretty good. And if I put some of this magic stuff on it, it would probably look pretty nice tonight. It's funny, the same stuff, you can use it to dilute and change your paint, but you can also use it to condition your gourd. And I told Tom it made my hands feel really nice. Something else I'll show you before I start that is that little gourd last night that I cut the hole in the house. When you grow gourds, you're never short seeds. That's last night's out of one gourd. If y'all want seeds, you let me know. I can't promise you they'll all come up, but obviously 2 years in the garden, they came up and took over everything, including our corn. So, the seeds just keep on giving. To clean these tips, I don't think I told you guys, but you just simply plunge it into steel wool and it will take the carbon off. If carbon gets on these, or the other kind, it will dull them and they don't work very well. And
Annie,
yes, ma'am.
do you use a drill with an
I have
attachment to make the hole?
Oh yes, to make the holes, yes, but not on this one. This one I burnt with the whoops, I'm taking off color.
Okay, thank you.
But yes, I do. Usually we do 1 inch. I'm not going to put a whole lot more on that. I got too generous. I should have been a little lighter handed, but you can see when it's finished, the kind of shine you're going to get on these.
Hey, Annie, also to go along with what Terry said, Aileen was asking about the placement of the hole. Does that matter?
It does. It really does. This one, truthfully, is just a smidgen low. You got to think about your bird's house being kind of like your house. You don't want water in it. So what we will do before we ever hang this one, of course, we're going to drill 2 holes here for a hanger. And I don't have any in here, but I either put a heavy cotton or I make fancy brass hangers to turns out I'm not very good at sales. I've given most of the ones that are really cool away that I made to friends. But I would drill holes here. I would drill holes back here as vents because they get hot. I would drill, whoops, there's more seeds in there. I would drill about 5 holes here, just small holes for, for drainage, just kind of scattered them. And this should be midpoint on the gourd. And like I said, it's just a smidgen low. I'm going to close back in there. It really should have been that much higher, but I was being more artistic than probably I should have been. But it really needs to be midpoint. But that should be okay. Given the shape of this, it should do okay. Well, honey.
Whole size matters.
Yeah, whole size matters. So that's the size for probably a wren. And folks will tell you to take your birdhouses in. I will tell you, there was a little wren when all the storms were so bad that really appreciated our birdhouse being out there a lot. And you don't have to be expensive for your paint mixing. I mean, I think I probably paid $5 for this thing, and I've had it for 10 or 15 years. And I've had oils, I've had acrylics, I've had everything, and it just clean up when you're done. But you can use parchment paper. You can use, you can just use a metal pan. If you want to be really cheap, like I've been, you can use plastic plates and wash them. That's compliments of Chinette. So you don't have to have a lot of money in it. I've probably invested all that I'm going to in this beyond a few more pins and another cord so that I won't have to do all this unplugging, which I think is hard on it. And even this, I mean, this came as a kit. I bought a set, but they have heavyweight cords, lightweight. I went with the heavyweight because these things do get hot. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but these pads, I went ahead and bought replacements. They wear out, but these things get really hot, and just to keep the heat off your hand, that's been invaluable. And what you use this thing for, and I kind of messed up with that magic stuff. I'll have to fix some of this, but you can very quickly set any color that you want. And you can see how quick it dries, even that. And I'll have to go back. This is forgiving. It's not sealed completely, so I'll probably go back and fix these colors that it pulled off. I guess it wasn't quite dry enough. And if I didn't like this, these are water-based until they're totally heat set. So I could go back and, in theory, I could use that stuff and wipe everything off and start all over. But how long did it take me to burn those fish last night? 30 minutes?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. So do you guys have any questions? Anything you might want to know?
Andy, where did you buy your wood birding kit? The really nice one.
You can actually go directly to Razor Tip. It's a Canadian company, but I looked around, and that Wellburn Gourds was the cheapest, but they're not cheapest on everything. So you kind of got to look. And when I finish up this PowerPoint, I'll put some resources on here. They sell a really expensive wood burner that looks really cheap on Wellburn. So I bought a Wagner. Now I will tell you, this thing gets really hot too. I'm sorry, not wood burner, but heat gun. It can burn your gourds too. So you've got to keep it moving. And I guess the close, I was going to show you guys what my inspiration was. I think it was after a meeting or something in Johnson City, and I dropped into some bookstore, and this is what started all this. This little $4 book. And I mean, you can see on the cover of this, some of these things, but there are bottle gourds, which is what they made bottles out of. You can make bowls out of these things. You can make vases. You can't make them watertight. You'd have to put glass inside them. Let me show you another cool thing. You can make pictures out of them. You can make animals. There's one of the ducks I was talking about. I don't anticipate that I'll get into this to that level. And even since ancient time, typography, and I've said that wrong, has been done on these. Ancient civilizations did it. That's what has inspired these. They found these in Egyptian tombs, but you can see, you can get really artsy with it. You can do pine needles on the top. My goal is to collect local leaves and do something like this, because I like incorporating things from here. So I plan to do some bases in time. And that's where I can use my dyes that I can't use other places. You can do funny little things. But it's just amazed me that the useless or the uses of this are just endless. And you can see some of these different colors that you can get. I'm going to turn the page on. These are some of the fancy ones. And you would not believe what these things sell for. I mean, it's ridiculous. Even some of these places have videos that you have to pay for. I'm going to turn the page, Tom.
Wow.
But so this was my inspiration. I have not done these.
Wow.
They are too hard. You know, I have carpal tunnel, and the precision you have to have on this, it's just astounding to me that anybody can do it. And I watched a fellow do that, but I can do this. And, you know, if you decide to do this, that's the thing to know. Do the things that you feel okay with. But I mean, even here, just look at the diversity of styles. I was trying to get to the birdhouses. Sorry, y'all bear with me. I'm going to go fast. You can net on them and around the top. Now, folks get really artsy and use clay. Masks are made out of gourds. I forgot to tell you all that. I may not even find the birdhouses. I'm kind of rushing. A lot of your Russian stacking dolls, guess where they got started from gourds. And then these are some of the more primitive things. And I just never realized that, you know, a lot of the Indian mask and African mask are from gourds. And there's other uses for gourds. Can I turn the page?
Yes,
Necklaces, there's little miniature bottle gourds. I think they look weird, but combs, you can make necklaces out of them. I'm not sure what that is, but in some countries they wear gourds instead of underwear, and I won't get into that, but y'all can use your imagination. I saw that today. I thought, well, that's probably one of those snake gourds that I was reading about. And the different kinds of gourds, you've got ornamentals, which are your gourds you put out at Halloween, and the little bitty, I don't know, I can't think of what they're called, but the little cute gourds. Then you've got, you know, your eating gourds, like your pumpkins and some of the other squashes. And then you have these hard shell gourds, which I consider basically purpose gourds. That's not their official name, but that's what I consider them. And then you have other weird gourds like loofah gourds that the only thing that they're good for is to make sponges, but they make incredible sponges. They can be hard to grow. We've learned that. And where I've told you to leave all these others in the field, if you do that with your loofah gourd, what happens, Tom?
they disappear.
You lose them. You lose them. The seeds must be good to eat, and they rot. So yeah, when the ends get dark on it, both ends, then you need to get them in, and you need to go ahead and peel that skin off and let them dry. But they, you know, I mean, how much do you pay for a loofah sponge? And then there's another gourd called a snake gourd, and you can take those things and twist them and while they're growing and do the strangest things with them. And you can also do that with swan neck gourds. So, you know, hopefully I've inspired you a little bit. I mean, a pack of gourd seeds is like $2.
How many varieties do you grow?
Well, we grew bottle gourd. Let's see if I can find some. Just really, we've
Probably
grown.
half a dozen.
Yeah, we've grown these. These are birdhouse or bottle gourds. We've grown the type that this is really more of a Martin house gourd. You can see it's a little bit different. We grew apple gourds, and I don't have one of those in here. I have one on the back porch. And I like them simply because you don't have to do much to them. They're just pretty. You can paint them with enamel paint. Birds don't like red. I didn't know that. But you can make a pretty Granny Smith and just kind of streak it with color and make it look like an apple. I don't have one of those in here. And they're beautiful. And I still will do the red ones, even though it does kind of look like a scene out of Sleeping Beauty when I have them hanging in the trees. Not Sleeping Beauty, it's Snow White. That's the apples. But those are the hardest to dry. It does take some time. But, you know, gourds are kind of like people. I mean, we had what, 10 apple gourd seeds? Mm-hmm. We had tall, skinny ones. We had short, fat ones. We had warped ones. We had some that almost looked oblong. And, you know, you just need to be sure you give them room. I don't recommend putting them in your vegetable garden. It was fun, but if we ever do that again, they need to go on a trellis because they can very quickly go wherever they want to. But we had 3 packs of gourd seeds.
If you trellis them, the necks are straighter.
Yeah, and the necks will be straighter if you trellis them. You won't have, you can see how this one's kind of off. So cattle panels work pretty well. They will take down, if you try to use bamboo or anything, they'll take it down. They took down our okra this year. And they took down our cosmos, which had really thick 2-inch stems. So they were pretty determined. They just do what they want to. Like I said, they're bed hogs. But we ended up with a extended bed, Dodge Ram truck bed full past the cab. To harvest. Yeah. So, and I have gourds everywhere. We have them in every storage building we have. So yeah. And we picked up the quote 50 gourds in the garden this year, and they're hanging in the dog kennel to dry because I don't have anywhere else to put them.
Wow.
One thing I will tell you, if you decide to do this, do not dry them in your house. The mold can get really toxic if you have allergies. The best place to dry them is probably in a barn where you can hang them up. We put them in our greenhouse, which really hastened the drying because all winter they laid in our raised bed and didn't really hurt anything, and it got hot in there. And they probably dried quicker than they normally would. But if we ever get to meet in person, I'll bring some so you guys can, you know, touch them, feel them, see what they're like, the weight, and maybe we can swap out some seeds. Like I said, I don't know how viable these are. They're now 3 years old, but.
Have you ever made rhythm type of instruments out of them?
Not yet. I just haven't had time to. But you know, they make a pretty good drum, and actually they come as a handy maraca already. So, but they're a lot of fun, and eventually I'll get it where when you open a door, a gourd doesn't fall. You know, my goal is eventually to sell some of these things at the farmer's market. I just don't have enough of a quantity built up yet, and I got to quit giving them away.
Very cool, Annie.
So hopefully I haven't bored you guys too much. I'm trying to figure out how to reverse myself here. Okay.
You could actually sell some at the farmer's market and then kind of give demonstrations on how you could do some of this. You might be able to sell some of your extra 150 gourds.
It would be good to, you know, those are just this past year. I mean, I've got all the other years. They're everywhere.
The people that haven't had time to grow might buy them from you.
Yeah, you know, I will tell you guys, if you decide to sell them, when you go online and start looking at these places, I think it was like 6 or 8 of those bottle gourds that I showed you, and they weren't perfect. $60.
Wow.
There's money in gourds. Yeah, look and Google Amish gourds. And of course, the apple gourds are much more expensive because, again, they're a very labor intensive.
And they're huge too.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And like I said, I've made me a little niche down here that I've reinvented this space half a dozen times. And so now it's my art space.
Well, it's definitely beautiful work and definitely inspiring. And I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was good. Thank you.
Well, I hope it went well. It's really kind of hard to show that. So, hopefully you guys learned a little bit, and if nothing else you've learned, just play with stuff. I mean, art is subjective, and just have fun. It's all about having fun. It's like coloring when you're in kindergarten. Just do something that's fun.
And pat Tom on the back too. Excellent
Yes.
handyman
Yeah, thank
skills
you.
there, Tom.
Yay, Tom.
He said thank you.
Beverly wants to know if you have to drill the holes before they totally dry or wait till they're totally dry.
You don't want to do anything with them till they're dry. As tough as this is now, when they're still wet, they are very fragile. And if they get damaged, the skin does while they're still wet, they will rot. Any little dent will rot them. So yeah, and they need to be totally dry anyway, because you need to wash them before you're messing with them. And you don't wash them in the house. And I really did struggle a little bit to find some that I had cleaned, because it got cold on me before I got enough cleaned up. You don't clean them in the house. What?
How long does it take for them to dry?
Oh, the other thing that I did tell you guys, you see the stem? Don't cut your stem off short. You want to go back to where that little branch is. It needs the stem to dry. It actually dries through the stem. I know that sounds crazy, but that's how it dries, is through the stem. So it does need the stem.
And Annie, somebody asked how long does it need to dry?
How long does it take?
We're in Tennessee, and it's wet here. In a good season, you could have this type of thinner shell gourd in 3 months. On a rainy season, depending on where you're hanging them, 8 months. And again, some of those the thicker skinned ones, particularly like these that this Wellburn place grows, and I think they're out in California, maybe. I would think that would be another year it'd be a year to dry. And that's why they're so expensive. I mean, it's an investment, and they take a lot of room. When they're drying, they don't want to touch. I told you, the bed hogs. I mean, they're very picky, and to be as tough and hardy and as long lived as they are, and apparently as resilient about regrowing, they're stubborn. I mean, they just have a mind of their own. But they have beautiful blooms. They bring in tons of butterflies and hummingbirds. There's one type of gourd that you can grow that only blooms at night. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's those snake gourds. But I've learned a lot. We just picked up some seeds and threw them out, and we learned all this stuff the hard way. So do some research before you do this. But we have had fun with them, and I've learned a lot.
You learned the hard way, so the rest of everybody on here could learn the easy way.
Yeah, we've got 40. We have 40 acres, so the next time we grow them, they will have their own place.
Very cool. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annie.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I will get this the PowerPoint finished so that you can upload it with. Whoops, sorry, there went my metal paint pan. So that you can upload it if you want to, and I'll try and answer some of these questions that we've talked about and put some of those pictures and resources.
Okay. And Annie, I'll send you a copy in the chat too, just in case there's more questions that we didn't answer or ask.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.